Well, good morning. Another slow start, it seems. I've got a couple of people. Hey, Nathan, nice to see you.
Oh, yep.
And hey, let me check. Let me check that my speakers haven't turned off. There we go. They're working. And Muddy and Diana. Hey, hey. Nice to see you here. Another early morning. We're talking that we may change these in the new year. We might move to just being in the afternoons, but we'll see how that goes. But we're here. It's an opportunity to ask some questions. You can post questions on the dashboard that you came through. Ask a question. You can post that there, or you could put it in the chat. Or, since there's only a few of us here, you could also just raise your hand and we can have a chat about what you might be playing around with Obvio, some questions that you might have around how you're using Obvio for your digital events, and then perhaps some production questions. We can't go a whole week without talking about some sort of what the latest camera, the best camera to use for something, or the best microphone, or whatever it is. So happy to geek out and talk about those sorts of things as well. So there's a few things. We had a good week last week with Blue going over the Zoom stats. Some of those looking at the graph. So that's still coming along in development. We're starting to use that a little more and making and we'll soon be able to roll that out for everyone. But if you missed that last week, then you can catch that recording is on the YouTube channel. You could go back and check that, and you can see Blue talking about the graph that we can get from the Zoom in the amount of time that people are inside Zoom and who they are is really the key thing. That's pretty exciting about what we can do there. So that's a significant change. We've got a new template coming as well. There's a slightly different design that you might be interested in too, and a couple of little tweaks along the way. Marketplace is still in the works, and so that should be hopefully a big shift for next year. Is really having marketplace working and some of these the stats working nicely, the broadcasts with SMS as well, so email and SMS all working great. That's going to be a big shift for next year, so we're looking forward to that. Something that will have a bit more next year as well is the affiliate links and being able to share your own sort of Obvio sign up and have people sign up from your link, and then they could, and then you can have a cut from subscriptions that people sign up. So we'll talk about that more a little bit in the new year. So yeah, and hopefully just another good year of some events, some good events happening. It's really interesting to watch the space as far as virtual events go, and seeing that it continues to work really well for lots of people, reaching a far wider audience than they would if they were just trying to do in person. And we're finding that Obvio still works great for that purpose. So I saw a little. Let me just see. Yeah, so SMS, it does work globally. So yeah, there's no issue there. I've used it successfully in Australia, and so it's all about collecting the mobile numbers accurately. And the best way to do that is to use the plus, sort of the plus code for all of your numbers. Blue's not here, so I can tease him about being American centric, and so built in a whole bunch of controls to allow people to not enter a plus for American numbers. But it certainly is the best way to do it. Even for American, or North American numbers, +1. It's good to use that because now you number one. We by having all of your numbers uniform, no matter what country they're in, you've got the international code there, starting with a plus. Then you're fine. And so, yeah, totally works internationally. And you'll see a rough sort of estimate of what the cost would be to send out. But it's really very reasonable pricing. We're not trying to make money on that. We're just passing through the costs that it does to send through. So, what else have I on affiliate? I sent over a client enterprise, have not received commission. Yeah, okay. So Heather, just just send through a help ticket on that, and we'll chase that up and find out what the deal is there. What is the YouTube channel? Yeah, sure. Last week, Blue Warrior Superman cave and got my dashboard. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I need to rewatch. Okay, yeah. So I'll post that for you, but it's essentially Obvio Online. If you were to search Obvio Online is the channel name. But I'll give you a link directly to last week's, which was the 22nd. I've got that video just here. I'll just post that in the Zoom chat there. So that's the recording. We use the live stream functionality of Zoom, not to capture people live, but actually just for the recording. Really easy, publicly accessible recordings, and that the moment we finish, and actually even if you were to look at the live stream that just started for today, you can scrub through it. You can go back to the start, and so yeah, it is really kind of handy for ease of access on that sort of stuff. So it's good to see a few more people coming through. Is December a good time to do an enrollment event? Well, it depends. It depends. I mean, I don't think there is necessarily bad times, because I don't know. I think that people do get busy at the end of the year. It seems it's funny in Australia, our school years is the calendar year, and so I've got 3 kids. They're all in school. They're sort of finishing up their year, and that feels like a natural end. Whereas I know in America that's not the case, and it's goes across the calendar year, and which makes me think: is it busier? Does it feel busier in Australia? I lived in LA for 3 years, and was trying to gauge that. Was it we sort of call it the silly season around the holiday time, and was it any less silly in America because of things like schooling being not a calendar year? I don't think so. I think it was just as crazy. Particularly, I think with Halloween, Thanksgiving. You go to Thanksgiving, and now it's just a big steep downhill into the holidays. So all of that to say, maybe not. Maybe it's not a great time for an enrollment event, but it depends on what it is, because people naturally start to think about what they're doing next year. And December would be a head start for some of that. Don't know. It depends on how many people as well. So I would do it. I'd probably do one in December and January, depending on how it all worked, because I think you'd find you'd pick up people with both. But I'm interested in other people's thoughts on that too. That was that. Zapier part on the dashboard with a zap or high level has not been working for months.
Grant, can I ask that question verbally? It's hard to explain it.
You may.
Okay, so basically on the dashboard, we want to see, because I'm doing a client, they have they have 700 people right now in their virtual event, but it's all free. So we're trying to tag people who actually showed up and actually clicked the offer. And on the right-hand side with the tagging, we've set it up a couple of times and it's never worked, because we wanted to be able to see, okay, this person logged in and actually went to the offer. And we've not been able to do that. It's been months. We just kind of forgot about it. Like, okay, forget it, it's not going to work. But we really want to use that. We're using Go High Level and it's still not working. And I don't know if I'm not doing something right or my tech guy's not doing something right, but it's just not tagging. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Under the rule or whatever.
Yeah. So there's a difference in those integrations. There's a difference when it comes to tagging based on the action when a button is clicked. The different integrations display that differently. What I can't remember with high level is if it populates the drop down of the tags, and then so that you choose an existing tag. With Zapier, that's definitely not the case, and that you have to define what the tag is that you want it to tag with. The thing that is not immediately apparent in that connection is that Zapier is also sort of wanting to see that that an attendee has been created by Zapier, and so then that has flown through. So it's created the attendee, it's gone back to Zapier to give the login URL, and then as a subsequent follow up is then tagged to say this person has now clicked this link.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it has to be Zapier the whole way through from the beginning.
Right.
And then Go High Level. We have had to go back and forth a little bit. So that's probably why it's not working, because we started with Zap and then we cleaned it out and then we did try Go High Level and we got broken. So we went back to Zap. So I see what you're saying. And I don't know about Go High Level. You're right. I don't know if we need to create the tag first.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a good point.
Yeah, I would play with that and just make sure that with high level that you're doing that, and that it's connecting to an existing tag to be able to do that. And then in the same way, I'd want to be seeing that high level is creating the attendee, and then it's able to go back and update the attendee, so that it's kind of it's doing that whole workflow.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can see where we're kind of messing that up. So in a perfect world, if let's say Go High Level does create the attendee, and you're right, I think we messed up, but let's just say that is. How does that work on the tag? Do we need to Go High Level, create the tag first, and then tell Obvio this tag is for this button?
Yes. That's my understanding, and keeping up with how they all work has been really tricky. But yes, that's my understanding, is creating the tag, and that's the difference, as I said, with Zapier, is it doesn't have tags necessarily. So
Right.
you're manually just saying, this is what I want you to tag it to be. Whereas the other CRMs, yeah, there are actual tag lists, and then we are able to populate the list within the button to give you a list of the tags that it's reading.
Mhm.
Um, so
No, no, I
yeah,
got it. I think I figured out why it's not working, like in this
okay, cool.
conversation,
Yeah,
because
great.
it's one, I don't know, like you said, who created the Obvio link, what was the source.
Mm,
That's the that's the first problem to go figure out. And then the second thing is based on that. If we're trying to go from Zapier to go high level, do we create the tag? And that probably ain't gonna work anyway.
mm.
So it's like you can't mix the bags. You can't mix the jelly beans. It's like all
Yeah,
Zap or
well,
all go high level from the exactly get go is what I'm
you can
understanding,
in
which
some
makes
place.
sense.
Yeah, you definitely can in some places, and
Okay.
because Zapier can, depending on how you're doing it, it can, and you can have multiple integrations. It's not recommended. I mean, ideally you're doing it with one and it's handling it all. Um, but there are some things that will work like that. But definitely with the buttons,
Hmm.
it really can be quite specific. Um,
Okay.
so
Okay. No,
so
no, I think
yeah.
I know what to go, look at and figure out. But that's
Hmm.
good to know because I didn't think that through. That go high for go high level specifically, you have to go create the tag in the system. Then once you create the tag in the system, making sure that the
Mm,
source was the same company, go high level, or the same CRM, then you can say, oh, this someone does this action, tag them that, and it reverses back, which
hmm.
I didn't really think through. So okay, well,
Yeah.
awesome. I'll have to
No worries.
I'll have to troubleshoot and come back in a couple weeks on that.
Yeah, and have a little play, and that's a that's one big advantage, of course, of having unlimited events, is even just setting up an event as a test event, that you
Right.
could do, that to see that flow work, um, right from the start, without any
Hmm.
attendees, and following that through and see how that works. I,
Yeah.
I I'd play around with that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Um, mm, 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 mm. Oh, yeah, Bez was
Okay,
saying
so
about
if they do not, if somebody, I just read that, if you're saying that if they do not list the tag, and if it's in go high level, are you saying, Muddy, that I need to in the step on Avio dashboard that I have to tell the tag and just make sure it's synced up, or how does that work?
No, so everything that you've heard and talked about with Grant is accurate, that you create the tag first in high level. But
Hmm.
Grant was asking, he couldn't remember with the high level integration when you went into the button settings, whether it showed you a list of all of your tags in high level. It does not. It's just a blank text field. So you just have to type in the tag exactly the same way that the
Mm,
tag is
okay,
is set up in high level. Yep.
got it. Oh, okay, so you just have to really make sure you're doing it right. Okay, because there's no drop down. All right, that makes sense. Thanks, Muddy.
cool, cool. Hey, Muddy. So Amy is saying in Zoom on my computer, when I share a video, I also need to share sound. My husband says his computer doesn't require to share sound. How is that set? My guess, there's a couple of things there. So if you're sharing your screen or a portion of your screen, then there is the option at the bottom to share sound. I think if you optimize for video, then it will auto select share sound, although then you can force that to be off. The other thing is that, same with in the advanced options where you can share a video, which is quite a good way of doing it, where you can point to the video file on your computer, and then it's playing it out, and it's sort of it's sharing that video, and it will auto select share sound, and optimize for video. And so, a couple of things to understand about screen sharing in general. Generally, screen share, what it's doing is, um, there's always a trade-off between frame rate um, and um, and frame size. It's a resolution. Generally, what it will do when you're doing a standard screen share is it will prioritize resolution over frame rate, which is often because people are sharing slides or they're sharing, mostly static content, and you want it to be really sharp and you just want it to, to look really clean. It doesn't need to be doing 30 frames a second at that point because it's only changing. It might not even be changing for a few minutes at a time. And so when it comes to video, well, actually, you do want the frame rate to be higher so that it's consistent and you're looking at that a nice consistent watching of the video. So when it says optimize screen share for video, all it's doing is dropping the resolution and increasing the frame rate. So that now that it will be more consistent to sort of 25, 30 frames a second. But it might not look as sharp because it's dropped the resolution down. So it's just knowing that when you're screen sharing. And another key thing is something that we play around a lot with is running our videos back in as a camera into Zoom rather than doing a screen share. And there's a few different, there's sort of pros and cons to that. One of those is that on the enterprise account that we have with Obvio, we have 1080p HD video enabled on these Zoom meetings, which is not standard. So what that means is that we can do full HD video and full frame rate, as long as your computer can handle it and your bandwidth, and you've got good bandwidth, then you're able to do that. And some other things about who's watching and that sort of stuff. But it's at least going to do 720p. The jump from the 360p, which is the standard def, the jump from that to 720p is significant. It's a significant jump, and it's worth it. The further jump from 720p to 1080p, a trained eye can see it, but the average punter wouldn't be able to pick the difference, and they'd just be happy with 720p that it looks great. And so that's just some things to keep in mind about when you're screen sharing. Screen sharing, really does take over the experience in Zoom as well, and so you might like that, or you may want to sort of control a bit more in the camera, and you'll see the events that Sage do and Blue, like TVE, all of those are ran through the camera input, not using screen share, and it gives that full flexibility. It's more of a produced broadcast in a sense, and that can look that way. Anyway, that was a bit more of a deep dive into. You're actually asking about screen share. Sound sharing your sound, and it's simply just a checkbox at the bottom of the window when you go to share your screen.
Thank you. Yeah. So I personally don't have any trouble sharing because I know I have to go share sound. But the conflict was he was trying to share from one of the other computers that's mine, and he was confused. Like, why do I have to share sound? That doesn't make sense to me. So,
yeah, right.
I just wondered if there was some setting that I could just always have on my Zoom that would make it so it would be easier.
Not really, but I do think that it remembers. I could be wrong on that, but I thought that if the last time you shared with it on, that it would stay on. I could be wrong on that, but I thought that's what it did.
I think if you're in the same meeting, it would do that. I don't think it does that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So then maybe it resets every time, but it's worth double checking. And the thing is too, I think there's lots of these things that Zoom does to try to handle the lowest common denominator. It's like, it's probably, I think it's rarer that you want to share sound than not. And so the idea of defaulting to not sharing sound, I think, is probably the right choice by Zoom, and that you're intentionally sharing the sound when you want to. Otherwise, all of your system sounds are going to come through, and your messages and your whatever, your dings and dongs that are happening in the background are going to be shared with everyone, whether you wanted that or not, right? So I think the default of it not being on is probably the right thing. So
Okay.
Hey,
Well,
Amy,
thank
is this
you.
your husband? Amy, is that your husband who said
No,
that?
he's not on this meeting.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
is this my husband that?
yeah.
Yeah, it's my husband who's trying to run some things in the background while we're having a meeting. And
You can just say one of those moments you're like, I'm right, honey. I'm kidding. But actually one time I did share a video on a live event, and I thought I did the sound. Like, I was trying to share, it was a YouTube video, it was inspirational, and I put the sound on Zoom to share. But I had to actually unmute myself to have the sound be pushed through. And I don't know why that happened. And it was an important piece because luckily I was in a room that was quiet. Right. I was just lucky. But if I had to have it muted and then it wouldn't it wasn't pushing the sound through like the YouTube video that I was trying to share. So it's just something to think about, making sure that if you're pushing the sound, that it is really going through, because for some weird case I had to unmute myself and I don't know why, to actually have it push through.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right, because it is actually sharing separately.
Right. I think I did something wrong.
Yeah, what it sounds like is that it wasn't sharing the sound, and it was and that people were just hearing it through your open mic. So that's how that would work that way, because it specifically does allow you to mute your microphone and then still be sharing sound through the screen share function. So yeah, have a little play with that. A few more people have joined.
Just a little testing, Grant, on that while you guys were talking. So I did test the theory that it remembers. It remembers in the same meeting. So if you share screen and share optimize for video and then stop sharing and later go to share again, it will keep those settings. And there are two settings, one that says share audio or share sound, and one that says optimize for video. As soon as you click optimize for video, share sound automatically gets checked as well. Once you close the meeting, even if you use the same meeting ID, when you go to share sound again, they default to off. They default to unchecked. So it does not remember them between meetings. It only remembers those settings within the same meeting. So just like Grant was saying, most of the time you don't want that. So Zoom defaults to unchecked. So
thanks, Marty.
So what I'm hearing is my husband's computer doesn't automatically share sound. He just thinks it does.
That would be my suspicion.
All right. Oh.
Wow.
By the way, Muddy, I have a new computer. It came yesterday.
Congratulations. I was also going to suggest that perhaps the horsepower limitations on the computers could have some effect on it, but it doesn't sound like the way you described it that would necessarily affect what you were mentioning. But I think you'll get a lot of use out of your new computer. So congratulations.
I needed an extra one anyway.
Don't we all?
Cool. Thank you all for your help.
Yeah. So a few extra people have joined. Hello and welcome. Good morning for most of you. There is no questions that have been posted on the dashboard. You are welcome to do that. You're also welcome to type into the Zoom chat there. There's only a few of us in here. And you can also unmute and have a chat if you like as well. If you're wrestling with something or thinking about something with Obvio or Zoom or something, then you're welcome to ask away. Muddy's already thinking about his questions. Let him go. It's been a pretty amazing year again for Obvio. It makes me think, as we get into December soon, might have to do a bit of a year in review and think about where we started the year, and some of the features that were added, and some of the events that have been ran. We could run some stats as well. So we might do that on our last Q&A for the year, and look at some stats of how many attendees we've had run through and how many events, and that'll be fun. Is it true the new marketplace is live in Obvio testing environment? Any chance of a sneak peek? So yes and no. Yes, yes, it is. It is in a testing environment that we have. And no, I can't do a demo of it yet. But we are getting close. We've been saying that for some time, I know, but and we have done. There's always little bug fixes and little things that are required, and some little custom development that comes along. Thankfully, we don't actually need to do a lot of custom development for certain events. And generally what happens is we might have a particular need for an event, that then becomes a feature that is made available for everyone. And it's actually really rare now that we do a specific custom development for one event, and it's only for that event. But there's always just little tweaks that are happening, often that are not even worth mentioning, but just tiny things that are about how the system runs. But what that does is it inevitably pulls us away from just getting over the hump of the of marketplace coming out. But it's getting really close. It's going to be really cool, and I'm hoping it's actually going to force us to change some of our dashboard editor as well, in a similar way. So that'll be kind of exciting. So Tamara talking about the automatic mute turned off. It isn't. It is a I think it might be a user option. So, I mean, you'd be very well aware that there are specific meeting settings. So there's in meeting settings that we know of, right? So all the ones we can control in meeting. There's meeting settings that are set sort of at the time of creating the meeting and editing the meeting, so that you could change some settings on that. I'm just talking straight from Zoom at this point. There are then user-based settings that are across all the meetings for a user. And then there are organization settings across the full account, or account-wide settings. I believe that mute on entry is a meeting setting. You can
I just chat it through?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So I know I think it's per meeting setting, but Zoom has recently moved a lot of their in-meeting controls to the portal. So to the web portal to set them. So they seem to be like and that was one that used to be able to be controlled in a meeting that moved to the portal. So
it's set up when you set your meeting up, as opposed to being able to control it in the meeting. So I used to be able to do it from in the meeting. You used to be able to say unmute all, but now it's like persistent. So if they go into a breakout room, they're muted. If they come out of a breakout room, they're muted. So for some of the meetings, a lot of the meetings I do, like I need them to not be muted every time they go in and out.
I still see it.
Where? Tell me.
Under the more button in the participants tab. So let me make you a co-host in this event, and then you'll see.
Would be most thrilled to be able to have that in the meeting. They did a little reshuffle, our friends at Zoom. Everything is not where it used to be.
There's things that are kind of covered in a couple of places, but yeah, if you go to participants pane, and then the more button at the bottom.
Can you share screen so we can follow along?
You are correct. Oh my gosh, you just saved my life. Thank you so much. That used to be in a totally different place.
Right. Heather, I can't share that currently because
okay.
The
Can
way
you say it again?
The way that Zoom is screen shares, and the way that we have our account set up, it doesn't share Zoom. You can't share Zoom into Zoom. It's an option, and we have it turned off.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Just say it again then, because
I will.
I'm visual. Just say it again.
Yeah. No, you're fine. So there are two key places that you find settings in room settings, and some of them are doubled up. So there's the easiest one is the security button at the bottom of the screen, and security gives you the allow participants to share screen, chat, rename, unmute, start video, and a couple of other ones there. But then the other option we were just talking about then was when you go to the participants pane, at the bottom of that window pane of the participants is a button called more, and within there it is the option to ask all to unmute, which is a fun option. And then there's mute all upon entry.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I was like killing myself going, where is this? It was here and it is not. And the security one I got, I was like, all right, they can unmute themselves, but that's all they could do. Thank you, sir.
No, you're welcome. And I mean, and you can totally understand that you are the exception.
I am the exception. I get it.
Yeah. And so we certainly wouldn't change our default on that, but
right. No, of course.
I would hope that they will continue to keep that as an option that we can turn off in the meeting, so, and then play, join, and leave sounds is a handy one in there as well. So sometimes you want that on smaller events, or sometimes you're running little meetings where you want to have the ding dong on when someone comes in. But I can imagine, Tamara, with yours as well. You have so many people coming and going. It would.
Is the ding dong one in the participant in the more as well?
Yes, it is. Play, join, and leave sounds. It's called. Yeah. Yeah, and so that's a couple of those options in there for.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And Tamara, your question about they get muted every time they go into a breakout room and come back, that's true if you have that turned on, because functionally they're going to a separate Zoom meeting. Like, I mean, when they go to a breakout room, it operates like an independent Zoom meeting. So when they come back to the main room, they're muted again when they come back.
So if I uncheck that mute upon entry, when they go in and out of breakout rooms, they'll still be unmuted.
They'll be in whatever state they were in. Correct.
Perfect. Okay. That's because we were, I know I used Zoom in ways that are unnatural to Zoom. And certainly I use Obvio in ways that are unnatural to Obvio.
And yeah, and don't we all? But yes, yeah, you're right. You have a particularly unique case, which I think is really cool. Okay, what else have we got happening here? Okay, yeah, there's no other questions there. We can go to your webcam question, Muddy. You're talking about the new Opal camera. Have you got one? You're muted. Speaking of muting.
Thank you. I unmuted my hardware switch, but I'm still muted. No, I don't have one, but I just saw it yesterday for the first time. It popped up in my screen. So Opal is a interesting company that is really trying to make a mirrorless quality camera in a webcam form factor. But their previous camera for Opal is Mac only. So this is a brand new camera that they call the Tadpole. Tiny camera, $175 webcam. It boasts some interesting features. It has a Sony image sensor in it. It has a lens with supposedly aperture 1.8, which should give a relatively blurry background, although that's also somewhat dependent on the image sensor size. But the other thing that they boast is this, the way they have a microphone, there's two audio features. They have a microphone that is built in right where your cursor is, but it has some acoustic chamber that it goes through to help directionalize. They say that it will only hear what it can see, meaning that it's only capturing audio from right in front of it. So it's not that it specifically is capturing, it's just the physics of it, but it has essentially a directional, like a hypercardioid pickup pattern. So it should only pick up what's right in front of it. And the last feature that's interesting, I thought, was it's USB, so it plugs into USB, but there's essentially a sensor on the USB plug that if you tap it, it will mute the mic. And if you untap it, it will unmute the mic. So right there's a little sensor. Maybe there's a little light there I guess it's kind of blinking a little. So it's a tap to mute function. So anyway, for those when you open the door for other production related questions, it's one of the ones that I thought I might need to get it just in order to test it and be able to showcase it, because it looks promising for a on the road camera for when people don't want to take their big setup with them.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see it in action.
I'm looking for a new webcam, so that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But I don't really like the other features. And the only thing I'm looking for is it's small. It looks small and compact, but how big? What's the screen like, or what's the? I'm not talking techie enough. The resolution for the actual camera itself.
Unsure, at least 1080p, if not 4K, but it has a section on specs. I'm not sure. I mean, it will be limited to 1080p in a Zoom call at best. Right. And you don't need to use any of the other features. I'm sure those other features are only if you choose it as your microphone, right? I mean, if you have a different microphone, you're going to select that other microphone anyway. So the audio features are.
I was looking at one because the big thing for me is I want to be able to zoom in or zoom out or move around and have it follow me. Those are the things I'm looking for right now in my webcam. I don't know if you can recommend, but
Insta360 link. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Link 360. All right, cool.
I would use one of those because it actually is a pan tilt zoom camera. So it actually has a little motor in it and will follow you around.
I just switched to it. This is what it looks like. This is the 360
wow.
link.
It looks good.
Set up some different presets and
you can zoom
turn on tracking if I wanted. And
so,
and if I switch back to my Sony,
Not as good. That Sony is not as good.
I think you find that the link is a bit more saturated than the Sony, which is Sony's probably a bit more true to how you look. There you go. Some new things in webcam technology, which I'm always interested in. Something I noticed recently, I don't know if this was a change. It must have been a change in iOS. But when I'm using AirPods now, when you tap on the AirPods, it mutes in Zoom, which is very handy. So on your phone, and so now it will mute rather than trying to end the call. It will do the mute, so you can sit there and just mute and unmute by tapping your AirPods. So I think there's something that seems to have changed there now too. Yeah, headset. Yeah, I saw the headset buttons thing, but it doesn't seem to. That doesn't seem to do anything in relation to AirPods. But there you go. Yeah, it is hit or miss. All right. So, any other questions or comments?
I have a quick question. If anyone's got any experience with the Blackmagic Micro Studio cameras?
Oh yeah,
they're good.
Yes. As in you're looking to buy one, or you've
Yeah,
got
because I like
access to
that
them,
is they could be so linked into the ATEM, so I can operate the cameras from the ATEM, and they use the same sensors across their whole range. And these, I was looking at the micro ones because where we are in this little barn, which we're turning into a studio, I want to be very discreet with the cameras, as discreet as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a bit more of like an open studio feel. We're not really seeing the tech, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
But I was wondering if anyone had any experience of them in comparison. Just sometimes when people micro things, you lose functionality, so you lose something about the item.
Yeah.
So I know that other cameras are really rated, but I'm just trying to sort of get a feel of what these micro ones are like.
No, I think they're great, particularly for that sort of unmanned operation. And so if you're wanting to be able to hide them away or stick them up in the corner somewhere or whatever, it's perfect for that. You can get there's certain, and not many, but you can get certain motorized lenses for them, which you might find helpful, because then you can not only can you do all of your shading control in the Blackmagic software, but you can also do zoom and focus.
That's what I'm particularly interested in. That as far as I could operate that. But I know pulling focus on it will be sketchy if you're running that live. But at least you can pull focus ready for the next shot and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was really interested in. I can have it just rigged up, but I can just do everything from one operating position if need be.
Yeah. So they're very good for doing for balancing. Do you know when you're in an environment that you're sort of installing into a fixed environment, and you're not necessarily going in and out of lots of different environments? I think the advantage of being able to control shading that would not change a great deal. I think it's not as big a deal, and as I think about it, having what I would like to have if I was looking at options like that is going with some sort of pan tilt zoom camera that when I stick it in that one location, I can get a whole bunch of different views and different angles from it, rather than just a fixed view. They are great. We've used them on events for we call them witness cameras, and the idea of just where you stick them up backstage, in different rooms, in like locker room sort of environments for sports shows we've done before, that type of view. It's perfect for that. But once again, having a pan tilt zoom is kind of like what we want. And so
the thing is, this space is not huge, so I don't think there'll be a lot of panning and tilting anyway. To be fair, in this space, there's not really a pan and tilt too. If you know what I mean.
So you can set it and forget it.
Yeah, well, I'm also trying to go things that are easy, so I know I've got set shots and in set positions. I think I get one of the bigger studio cameras for the main camera, and these would just be for the side views, and then like an up shot. So, but keep things very much fixed position. So if I've got customers come in, I know it's like the same pattern really. You know what you're doing, and don't change things too much.
Yeah, and the big advantage of being able to just use the software to shade them is great. And then if you were finding that you were doing lots of color changings and the environment was changing a lot and you needed to paint them more, then you can get the paint panels, the Blackmagic panel, and really have hands-on control of all of that too. And to be able to do that across a tiny camera as well as the larger, studio cameras, and use the same, you just learn the one way of doing it, and now it just works across all those cameras. That's a huge advantage.
This is why I want to try and keep in one ecosystem if I can for ease.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so I'm just thinking, and also if I get a pocket cinema camera as another camera, it's got the same sensor in it, but I could also then take that out if I want to do something more mobile. So, but then at least everything should look the same. It's in my head. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't think you would be unhappy going down that line. Thinking about your SDI, like you can run you can run two lines, like a second SDI back, which is how you can do comms over those as well.
Tally light.
Having a program feed, tally light, all of that, yeah. Program feed coming back to those cameras as well can be handy too. And so there's we've used that before where we just wanted another way of getting program feedback and ran it through the camera. It was just a great way of doing it. So yeah, I don't think you'd be upset with those at all. You get some really cool mounting options, and you could really kind of hide it away.
It seemed quite reasonably priced, really, to me. I mean, obviously the glass stick on the front's gonna bump it up, but I don't have to go crazy at start. We can always upgrade that later. So cool.
Yeah, it'll be the I think the thing on that would be buy once, cry once. And so paying more, when you first get it, and getting a motorized lens, I think you'll be happy when you have that. So
being able to spend £500-600 on lens rather than £2,000 on a lens. That's the thing. You don't got to spend silly money. You can just spend glass a reasonable amount. You know what I mean?
Yep. So. Yeah, and to be able to have some nice depth of field on it and stuff as well, which makes such a big difference,
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, get the right lenses for the right cameras to the right position, and then you're there. Then.
Yeah, that's great.
Quality. Yeah.
Blackmagic is amazing. Like it really is for the price and the functionality you get, and the open control protocols to be able to control that from different things. Really amazing. To be able to use Companion to be able to control things on it. That type of thing. Stream Decks and Companion software to be able to control different aspects of it is really amazing. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I think lots of people we know are big fans of Blackmagic gear, and we keep buying more and more of it. So I want them to bring out a PTZ, like come on already, like a nice little PTZ that you can control with all the panels that have got little joysticks on them and stuff. They're set up perfectly for it. So one day maybe. Cool. Double check that there was any other questions that came through. Muddy, maybe. Don't feel the country. Yeah, yeah. You're Muddy. You're just asking about country codes in the phone numbers and having a drop down. Yeah, I've wondered about that too, or some sort of autocomplete type of thing, where I've seen that on a few different things. So yeah, I'd like to do something along those lines that would really force people to pick their country, and to get the number really as accurate as possible. And it would just be convincing blue and seeing that it defaults to USA. That's what we needed to do. But yeah, I think we need to explore that some more when we are collecting numbers. At the moment, you're able to import the numbers. And I think doing it with a plus is the best way to do it. Yeah, thank you, Muddy. You're talking about there's two videos missing. I have them downloaded, ready to upload, and so I will do that since you've prompted me again. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. Get that in there. I actually just created a playlist as well, and was just going to embed that playlist on the dashboard, the updates dashboard. But I think there's some embed privacy option or something set on the YouTube channel account that I just need to double check. It seems to be not liking it, so I'll play with that. But even so, I'll add them.
That gives me another something I heard this week that I hadn't heard before was so it's not as applicable to Obvio, but many of us also have individual Zoom accounts because I don't think this integration would work. But there's a group purchasing organization for Zoom that had somebody using Zoom inappropriately, and it shut down the whole group purchasing account, which meant all of their recorded videos in Zoom were frozen. Okay, that's the backstory. And people were trying to get their videos out. And so there was some discussion around best practices with recordings and how to automate recordings, doing something with those recordings. And again, I don't think this will work with Obvio, but one of the things I heard that was interesting and maybe of interest to those here is that you can set up a zap that says when a new recording is created in Zoom, to download that or to put it like on Google Drive or to put it in Dropbox or something like that. And I hadn't previously seen or heard of any automated way to move recordings from Zoom recordings to some other platform, short of the Searchy integration in Obvio, which sounds pretty awesome. But anyway, for those that are interested, apparently there's a Zap. I haven't explored it yet, but it just flew into my brain as we were talking about it, so I thought I'd share.
It's an interesting thing. We've got the recordings page for each room is sort of pulling in the data from Zoom and displaying it in a way that it makes them downloadable. There's no restriction for us in potentially creating something with the Zapier Obvio app that could also see those. Yeah, I'm just thinking that through a little bit. Either that or some sort of integration with Dropbox or Google Drive or things like that. But it seems like a Zapier thing would be a good way to do that. So that it could be automated as soon as those recordings come down, that they're then offloaded or, put onto a cloud drive somewhere that's your own that you can then manage going forward. I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think it's another one of those reminders of you having some sort of recording of your own, like having a way of doing that and not wholly relying on the Zoom cloud recording. Having a local recording of you in high resolution, I think is a good thing to do, and your audio, but also having the other people in your meeting recorded as well. And there's a few different ways of doing that, but you could even just screen scraping and just having something that you have yourself. But I like the idea of allowing people to automate downloading of recordings. Yeah, it's a cool idea. That I'm going to make a note of. Right. We've just hit 1 hour. I don't think we've done shorter than 1 hour before. Not intentionally. But it does feel like when I get to an hour, I feel like, right, now we step up and just say, all right, I'm not messing around now. If you don't have a question, we're going to finish it up. Try to find this. Here we go. Any other questions? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes because I'm going to write.
Hey, Kevin, I saw your question come in chat. I'm familiar with ITS. I'm a inside the show user as well with Maestro, so may have some insights I can share with that. Grant, is it okay if I give
go for
a few insights here? So Kevin's asking a question in the chat about Felipe has a fantastic software tool and community and training program called Inside the Show, really initially designed for entertainers who are moving their shows to Zoom, and magicians and other folks that were doing stage shows before Zoom and then wanted to have some way to really level up and give a performance that engaged the audience. And it has some custom built tools called Maestro that are within the OBS platform. So it leverages heavily on OBS, but it brings in a secondary user into Zoom called Backstage. And when Backstage is in as co-host, it allows you to do all of these really cool things, which he calls the audience around. You can push a button and it actually brings in little, almost like, Pressure Luck, where it has, all those like, all those like little squares around you, brings in audience views around you inside your main camera view, right? So if you were spotlit and you can, there's a lot of really cool functionality that's built into, buttons on a Stream Deck as well that you can do and interact. The challenge with Obvio is getting Maestro into an Obvio meeting. But Felipe is aware of that, and his team has created a process where you can do it. And I don't remember exactly what it is, because normally Maestro, you would put in the email or you would put in the meeting ID and password, but that doesn't work with an Obvio meeting. But there is a way that Felipe and his team, they're aware of Obvio, they know of Obvio, and so they built a system to be able to get Maestro into Obvio. And so there is a way to do it. I have done it. I remember it being a little bit, several steps to the process, so it's not something I've been doing a lot, but it is something that's available. And once Maestro, the Backstage Maestro, is in an Obvio meeting, then all of the normal functionality works within it, because at that point it's just a Zoom meeting. So once you get Maestro in, then all of the functionality will work with that. And the last thing I would say is that Felipe is a really awesome dude. And he is not only like a software engineer and a UX designer, and he understands the video production world and the entertainment world. And so he's kind of combined all of these skill sets to leveraging the Zoom SDK, the meeting SDK, which has access to all of these different video functions and has built these kind of software tools on top of it. Really, really impressive. Might be interesting to queue up sometime and have ready to do a little demo in one of these meetings. But that's as much as I can tell you, Kevin, and happy to answer any specific questions if you have them.
Yes, there. Security is is a big a key for us, particularly with our larger events and high ticket paid events. And so obviously having something where you could go to the green checkbox at the top, the shield, and get the meeting ID and the password. If you were able to just share that to anyone and anyone could get in, then all of our large events that people pay good money for would be shot, right? And so we have to be able to lock those down, and which is what we've done. And so it's kind of based around a registration system, and but it's a registration that is manually approved through our system. So it's automatic, but it's from a Zoom point of view, it's a manual process, which means that if you share the meeting ID and the passcodes and things, people will get diverted to a registration form that then really just goes nowhere, and they aren't ever able to get in. So I, like Muddy, I can't remember exactly how we how we worked around on this one, but there is a way with the user and a sort of registered user of being able to get Maestro in there. So yeah, and I remember seeing a sort of a help article about how to use it with Obvio. So it is, yeah, and I believe that's still working okay. So yeah, I'd have a little play and see what you think.
I have a little screenshot on my page that's showing what Maestro looks like when you go from gallery view to the gallery around. And Felipe is doing a free masterclass next week where he's kind of showcasing this. And so for those of us in the event world, don't be surprised. It's an enrollment event. There'll be an offer at the end, but it's a fantastic masterclass.
Yeah, this is a very, very cool system for sort of managing all of that yourself, and so you could see him triggering off a stream deck and doing a whole bunch of stuff, which it's certainly it's great when it works. You start losing your train of thought, and it's a bit of a snowball effect, and now you've got a train wreck on your hands. It's very, very difficult to. We haven't said it for a while, but don't tech your own show, and I mean, we do at times, but it's a recipe for disaster. And it's one thing that I talk about regularly is always just having someone else that's managing your tech for you, and even to a smaller degree, if it's a small show, but just having someone with you who is handling some of that stuff, it's always worth it, so that you can concentrate on your community and your content, and you're not worried about the technology. So yeah, be that person with all the toys. Nice. Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the reason why I was asking that, because that's exactly what I wanted to do, not tech my own show, to offer this as an opportunity for someone else and do the tech behind. I just wanted to make sure that to use Obvio as the mechanism to get the audience member in, check them in, so we know who's there, we can secure and lock that down. And then for the person who I would essentially be producing the show for and then do the tech behind that. Then they can
I see.
just do their part, and we can start bringing in, have a couple of people. We can start bringing in the people around that circle and let them do the actual presentation. And we worry about the tech side. I just wanted to make sure that it was possible to use Obvio, because that's exactly really how I see it. The best use for that, in this one instance, to offer this as just as an option for people who want to do a single, just online virtual show.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, and you can use it. I guess one of those things is too, that you can achieve some of those things, with other systems too, right? Like using OBS, or different software solutions, vMix and things like that. You can achieve lots of that manually yourself as well. And then with hardware solutions, there's other things that you can do as well. So it's not the only way of doing it. It's just it is kind of a little box of tricks for Zoom.
Way. That's it.
Yeah.
And there is a new functionality to be able to remote control Maestro. So exactly what you're talking about, Kevin, where you want to be the one to run the tech and let your speaker just come in and present, and you can do some of those, some of the wizardry with Maestro, but it is not for the faint of heart on either you or the speaker's end, because there's quite a lot of setup in order to get those systems to work together remotely. So it's possible, certainly not the easiest way to do remote production in my opinion.
So in order to do this, would I be able to reach out to Obvio and say, okay, to kind of run through to make sure I have this right? I know you can't only give
ITS team will get you squared away.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I would look to. Okay. All right.
In my experience. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, great. Bez, hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to comment on what you said about doing the tech or producing your own show. I did when Melanie was did her first some trial runs where she was, it was I guess the challenge part. So it was a free event. And she consistently had 10, 11 people show up every day over the weekend. And I will tell you, the one thing I learned from walking away is don't do your own tech. If you're going to be the thought leader and the presenter, focus on that, have someone else produce, run your show, because you will be drawn away. And that's even with her having me as to do the tech and manage the comments and stuff. I couldn't imagine you or whoever trying to take all that on and to effectively deliver a professional presentation. I think we get used to these Zoom meetings where we're running and throwing up slides and this and that, but if you're doing a professional event, absolutely not. Definitely get some help, even if it's a family member or somebody, but don't do your own tech. That is the one thing I learned walking away from that.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. And what's funny to me, I think, is that for some reason, when we went more, particularly during COVID, went to virtual events, is that suddenly all these people that would never have walked behind a sound desk, sound console at an in-person event, suddenly decided that they would, or should be doing all of that same sort of production for their virtual events. And so even a very, very basic in-person event in a ballroom somewhere where they've got a handful of microphones and a couple of computers for PowerPoint presentations, people would never try to do that themselves. But we're trying to do far more complex things in the virtual world. So it was always kind of surprising to me. But then lots of people have learned how to do it and do it really well. I just hope that they're keeping on the same thing of not trying to also host and provide content and things as well. So, so yeah, you go.
Yeah, I saw a comment about the day rates for tech people has gone crazy, but like I said, you can even get a friend or a student or like somebody who at least knows how to turn on a computer and and have them help you, because you need a second hand. And if you have a third hand, even better. Like if someone's doing the tech and then someone else can manage the comments, hey, that's a winning formula. But at least get a second hand to help you. And you can get an intern. There's so many different creative ways to do it. And eventually you'll get to that stage where you can hire a pro and pay them, their fair wage. So anyways.
Yep. 100%.
But my point was more is to the point of like people doing their own tech and now they're not. That's why there's a shortage of the skilled of techs in London. My friend, his day rates has gone through the roof. I see him at the weekend. I couldn't believe what he's getting for a day rate. And that's because people were doing it on their own. A lot of people left the industry and now they're short because everyone wants them back. So the price has gone boom. That's just the point I was making. People are not doing it all themselves anymore. Right. They've learned.
Yes. Yeah, you're totally right. And I've had to do a couple of, very reluctantly, I had to do a couple of in-person events just recently. And the experience of event staff in some of these hotels, not even tech, I'm just talking just event staff, is staggeringly low. And then same with tech. There just isn't the techs that understand how to patch into the house, or how to get an internet line, or how to get a microphone working, to a PA in a room, or things like that. So I've noticed that in big cities here. So it is consistent. So, which I'm okay with. I'm okay that in-person events don't go well. That's okay. Just let us do more online. I love it. So anyway, sorry, excuse me. I found my mute switch, which was good. That's another advantage of the virtual event. If I was in person with you all, I'd be coughing all over you. So thank you for joining us this morning. Hopefully there's been something there that's been interesting. We'll be back again at 5 p.m. Next Wednesday, Eastern. And so I'm sure we'll have a few more people then as well. And you can check back you can come back to the dashboard at any time during the week, and you can add your questions. So if there's a particular question that you have, then you're welcome to do that. And then, of course, you can always email us at help@obv.io as well. So thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.